You're watching The Penny Hardaway Show, presented by Cook's Pest Control.
Another busy week for Tigers basketball is in the books. We'll look back at the games against Little Rock and Auburn, sit down with one of the new transfers this year, and look ahead to an all-SEC week. It's The Penny Hardaway Show. Let's go.
The game is on.
The Penny Hardaway Show is presented by Cook's Pest Control. You don't have to live with pests. Call Cook's Pest Control and get a free quote today. Conway Services, the official HVAC partner of Tiger Athletics. Tennessee Lottery, turning dollars into dreams. Tiger Bookstore, the official merchandiser of Tiger Athletics. AutoZone, when you've got car trouble, you want help from number one. So if you've got a battery problem, head to AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination. Get in the zone. AutoZone. And is supported by your Memphis area Toyota dealers.
This was a productive week for the Tigers. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Woloshin.
I'm Matt Infield. From Memphis to Atlanta, let's check out the highlights against Little Rock and Auburn.
The Tigers starting the week off by welcoming Little Rock to FedEx Forum. Early first half, Jaden Hardaway with the strong take for the hoop plus the harm. Career high 16 points for him in this one. A little later on, off this miss, Alex Lomax feeds DeAndre Williams. Two hands for safety on the jam. Team high 17 for Williams. Tigers dispatch Little Rock 87-71. Now the big one. To Atlanta for a matchup with number 11 and undefeated Auburn. Memphis up 5 in the first half. Malcolm Dandridge and Lomax showing off that Memphis East connection. Gorgeous feed from the big fella to a cutting Lomax for the layup. Later in the half, Kendrick Davis comes up with the errant pass. Going the other way, absorbs the contact. Ball hangs up there. Count that and one. He'd finish the three-point play. Tigers lead by 6 at the break. Dandridge doing it on the other end too. He's our defensive player of the week. Comes up with the block on the perimeter and rewarded going the other way with a breakaway slam. 47-39 Memphis lead. And there's little doubt who the outstanding performer of the week was. Davis, without question, the best player on the floor in this one. Splash down from deep. Season high 27 points for him, 9 rebounds and 6 assists to go with it. Memphis picks up an impressive win. You'll remember on Selection Sunday, they hand Auburn their first loss, 82-73.
Let me start off by congratulating you. Here we are, early in your 5th year, already into the 90s with victories. That is quite the accomplishment. And a part of that is your teams have been good from day one on defense. Where did you get your defensive principles?
It came from my coaches growing up. The mentality of all of our teams that I played on when I was smaller was defense first. I was thankful enough and blessed enough to play for coaches that it was all about defense. Offensively, it was okay, but it was a defensive mentality because defense travels.
Is that like Garmer Curry, Larry Finch?
Larry Finch.
That's the beginning?
My boys club coaches, Coach Mr. Veloff and all those. Seriously, like as small as I was in the boys and girls clubs, defense is where it's always been.
I feel like guys that were offensive superstars in their playing days, when they become coaches, a lot of times they gravitate towards those defensive-minded guys. I feel like you're no different in that regard. Do you feel like that's true, and what is your perspective on why guys like you that had that playing career, then when you coach, those are my guys?
Yeah, I think that it's because, we scored, but it was always, you understood the games where the teams were the toughest, that played you the toughest. Those were the games that kind of stuck out in your mind. You were like, what were they doing to me that made me very uncomfortable? So even though I wanted the easy games, the tough games, I kind of, I look forward to those as well because I could learn. And when I became a coach, everything that I learned from being a good offensive player, what teams did against me, is what I put into the fold along with what I learned as a young kid as well.
So when you start to build your defensive philosophy with a particular team, do you have something already in mind that you know what you want to do? Or do you look at the personnel and go, okay, this guy's tall, this guy's this kind of guy? How do you plot it out?
We do it, we call it hot guys, which are the guys that can really play, the scorers, and then we call plugs. Not to be disrespectful, but we're just saying when we're not guarding this guy. We're only focusing on the best players. And I think I took on that philosophy more so in high school when I played. Whoever were the best players, we're saying we're taking those guys out. we're making the ball find the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth option on the team. And we know we'll win because the top guys won't be getting those shot attempts. So I brought that to college as well.
Feels like basketball has become a sport where it's all about hunting mismatches, pick and roll, switches, whatever it might be. Versatility seems to be the name of the game as far as guys have to be able to guard smaller guys on the perimeter and bigger guys inside. How has that changed in your time just around the game?
Well, in our time, we didn't really switch the guards onto the bigs because they were too dominant. They were too strong. They were too big. So we had to do more trapping to get the ball out of the guards' hands and then rotate back to the bigs. Now we switch Kendrick, Alo, all these guys on the bigger guys. And then when we get a chance to fix it with the big, we'll push them back out to the perimeter. And the big will go back onto the big. So now it's more of a shuffle game and a chess game. Then back in the day, it was just strictly about being aggressive, getting the ball out of the guard's hands and getting into someone else's hands.
Do you think it's tougher now?
It is easier now.
Really? Okay.
Because you can switch 1 through 5. Back then you couldn't, when I played, you couldn't switch 1 through 5.
Where did you learn that particular aspect?
That's something that me and Mike Miller worked on when he was here. We talked about the philosophy of switching and fixing. We were playing the UCF Knights, and they had a play where Dawkins would backpick for Taco Fall and then pop out. So we switched everything, and then when the guard rolled down into the post, he just fixed it with the big. So we took him out of this one play that they used to run, and that's when it really started to catch wave with us.
What do you make of your team's versatility and just defensive mindset with the guys that you have on this year's group?
We have enough length, we have enough speed, we have enough versatility where guys can guard multiple positions. So it makes it harder for people to kind of run their stuff. When you can switch every position, you take them out of a lot.
Who's the toughest defensive guy you ever faced as a player? Who's your best defensive player you've ever coached? I think I know that one.
The toughest defender I've probably played was probably Gary Payton. Gary Payton, Michael Jordan, those guys were good defenders, yeah. Really good defenders. They did what they call, they did their work early. They didn't try to let me catch the ball in a comfortable position. They forced me out on the perimeter. They tried to send me to my weak hand, and they knew they had help. And the best defender I've ever coached is Alo. He's a multiple effort guy.
There's got to be a way for basically every player to make an impact on the defensive end, no?
Yeah, that's his energy. That's something that you can control, your energy. Just having more energy, taking things away, taking charges, being the first to the floor, understanding your matchup. Those things help you be a good defender.
Alo obviously is not a giant of a guy. What makes him such a great defensive player?
His heart, and how he was pretty much raised, how we raised him from 6th grade on up was about being tough, having a lot of energy, and fighting every possession, and already what his God-given ability of just having multiple efforts, which makes him really tough.
He must do a bunch of film study because the anticipation, there have been a couple of steals this year that you couldn't tell unless you knew what was going to happen beforehand.
That's not coaching, that's all him. That's his anticipation, that's his work, his homework that he does on the guys that he's going to guard. And then he starts to read the plays as the game goes on. He starts to sense things out before it happens, and then he can jump the gaps and get those steals.
Guy that I think is fun to watch defensively when he's on his game this year is KO. Obviously, there's a lot of raw ability there. You guys have to harness some of that. What goes into marrying the crazy athleticism with knowing the game, where he's supposed to be in the right spot at all times?
Yeah, for him, he only played down on the post. He never played out on the perimeter. So this is new for him. So to marry the both, his athleticism with the IQ, is we watch a lot of film. We get him in the film room, and then after practice, we walk him through things because this guy given the ability to block shots, is second to none in the country.
Keontae Kennedy's basketball journey has taken him all over the map, and now he's landed in Memphis. We'll sit down with the UTEP transfer. That's after the break.
You're watching The Penny Hardaway Show, presented by Cook's Pest Control.
Welcome back to the Penny Hardaway Show. It looked like Keontae Kennedy was going to spend this season with another D1 program in the state, but he changed his mind at the last second. And now the Tigers' ultimate Swiss Army knife has one goal in mind. How has your time in Memphis treated you so far?
It's been great. This is a basketball city, and they show us a lot of love, a lot of support.
Kennedy's future in hoops was likely determined before he was even a thought.
My dad played. He actually originally started. He committed to California, Berkeley, and then ended up going to Kansas, and then ended up Carl School of Mines, where my mom ended up too. They were both engineers, so that's the path they chose.
When did basketball really come into your life?
Since I came out the womb. I remember playing probably my first game like at like 4. I always had a ball in my hands when I was young, so basketball was always my thing.
Ball is off the back of the rim for Williams. The photo is good. Keontae Kennedy.
Kennedy grew up in the suburbs of Denver, but moved to Texas in high school for better opportunities in sports. And we're not just talking basketball. He almost went in a different direction.
Honestly, football was my first sport. So, I mean, I was just doing both, but football was really the sport I really wanted to play. And I ended up choosing basketball just, I mean, for really like health and many reasons. I feel like you can make more money playing basketball, more opportunities. And my mom was kind of egging me to play more basketball.
You think you could have played football collegiately?
Absolutely. I still like miss the game here and there. I know I could give me a month and I could go do something on that field.
The decision to leave the gridiron to focus on the hardwood paid off, with Kennedy landing at Xavier for his freshman year in 2018. But after a year in Cincinnati, it was back to the Lone Star State.
How do you land at El Paso?
So coach, at the time it was Coach Terry, and he was best friends with my high school coach from Westlake. So I always had that relationship there. And I actually knew a lot of the team players there. There were a lot from Texas I played against. So I think it's gonna be an easy transition going there, be able to play my game and have fun. So.
But transferring to UTEP meant Kennedy had to sit out a year.
It's really difficult not being able to play. But it makes that next year easier to transition because you've already been in the system. And so now you're looking at a veteran guy when other dudes come in, because I mean, I played the whole system and got to know the game, got to know my coaches for a year.
Kennedy returned for the 2020 season and played 2 years for the Miners, averaging over 14 points per game last year. But he felt like there was something bigger out there for him.
I loved El Paso, and it was hard for me to leave. And honestly, once I went in the portal, coach was happy for me. He was happy for other players that left and went to bigger schools. Like he was happy for us to go just be great and take advantage of our opportunities. So that's what I had to do. And I felt like there was more out there for me, and this is where I landed.
Kennedy initially committed to Jerry Stackhouse in Vanderbilt, but then decommitted in May, and he quickly realized he wanted to be in the 901.
How long did it take you to realize, days, conversations, were you like, okay, like I think this is where I need to be?
I don't think it took 24 hours, honestly. I already got on the phone with the right people, talked about the right things, and I mean, I was here. I didn't commit until later, but I was in the city.
What was their biggest selling point to you?
Really just playing with a lot of great guys and going to the tournament. Like that was one of my biggest things, is winning. And they've won here, and there's more they want to do. It hasn't been completed here, and being the underdogs as well. I've always been an underdog, so being an underdog and still a top dog at the same time, I mean, it's best of both worlds.
Another big draw was being able to bring his experience to a squad full of veterans.
Absolutely. I think my career, especially, excluding my freshman year, I think every team I've been on has been much of a younger group. And I think coming with an older group where we know like this is the goal, this is what we have to do, it's easier to gel and be able to work with each other to one common goal. Is not everybody's have their own individual agendas.
How would you describe your desire and passion to get to the tournament and then make a run?
Oh, I'd love it. I mean, that's what I came here to do. That's what we talk about. We want to hang a banner in there and in the FedEx. So that's our goal. And I'm really excited. We're not even close to where we really want to be. And we're looking good as well. As like from the outside, from inside, we're like, no, we're not. We're nowhere close.
Coach Keontae Kennedy has shown moments of brilliance this year. How did he originally come into your world?
You know, it was really a blessing because he committed and was about to sign or signed with Vanderbilt. And then something happened with administration and he got back into the portal. And when he got into the portal, our coaches asked me to watch film on him. I saw film and liked him, and then they came on a visit and then he signed.
So that was back in May, I think, that he decommitted from Vanderbilt. When you're getting so close to the summer, you kind of want to have an idea of who's going to be on this roster and who's not. Guy enters the portal in May. Is it kind of a mad scramble to figure out, like, all right, is this guy going to be fit or what?
It is a mad scramble, but once I saw the video and the film on him and the footage, I knew he would fit into our system quite well.
What stuck out?
That he had tons of energy. He was long. He could shoot it. He could score on all 3 levels. And he just played at a high intensity the entire game.
What is his perfect role for you on this team?
I think a couple things. Offensively, to make shots, and then defensively, to guard the better players on the other team. He can do both.
What has stuck out to you the most so far about him, either on the court or maybe something he brings in the locker room, his personality, any of it?
Well, on the court, he's relentless. He's going to give you all that he has. You know, I push him hard, but I know that he can handle it because he's a really good player. Off the court, he's just a team guy. He wants to win above everything.
What's the one thing you really want to see him get better at for this team to be successful?
I want to see him crash the glass more because I think he has it in him to get more offensive rebounds. I think he can be a terrific offensive rebounder.
Do you think he's kind of maybe a Swiss Army knife for this team? Like, you know, like Kendrick and DeAndre, obviously they're going to be the main scoring threats on a night-to-night basis, but Keontae could chip in there. Obviously, you hit on the defensive end. Is he kind of a best of both worlds guy, I guess you want to put it?
He is. He's a perfect guy for those two guys because he's like a Swiss Army knife. He's doing all the dirty work, and he's doing it with a smile on his face, and he, like I said, he ultimately just wants to win.
And he sure does seem to be the kind of a guy that the other guys like, knows his role, and is a cheerleader when he's not on the court.
Yeah, I mean, when he's not on the court, like I said, he's a total team guy. Coming from UTEP, he was a scorer. So for him to try to find his footing and then just take on the role that he's been given, along with trying to find his footing, I commend that.
The Tigers might as well ask for an invitation from the SEC with all the teams they're playing from that conference so far this season. We'll preview a week with 2 more ahead. Coming up next.
You're watching The Penny Hardaway Show, presented by Cook's Pest Control. Let's take a look at the AutoZone road ahead.
This week, we continue our tour of the SEC West. You start in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, then A&M comes to FedEx Forum.
It's a heavy overload of SEC teams, but they're good teams. They're tournament teams, and that's what we wanted in our schedule, and that's what we got. So, you know, going to Tuscaloosa, I've never been there. It's going to be a great trip for us, really good team. They want revenge, and we want to win on the road. Coming home against a tough A&M team who had a great tournament last year, you know, I'm really excited about that as well.
Feels like most people, when they think of the SEC, they think of obviously football. But over the last couple of years especially, I mean, this conference has been loaded with ballers and really good teams. How would you assess just the level of competition in that conference and the way it's risen up lately?
Well, that conference is putting pros into the NBA. You know, mainly Kentucky, but the other schools are as well. So now they're a Power 5. They're a conference that is being respected for more than football.
After all this time, you're telling me you've never been to Tuscaloosa?
Never been to Tuscaloosa. Shame on me.
Wow. I don't think they have a Ritz or a Four Seasons there. What are you going to do?
Man, I don't know. Maybe I'll go to Nick Saban's house.
That was tonight's AutoZone Road Ahead. AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination and official sponsor of Tiger Athletics. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
I love playing these tough games in December. They prepare you for March. We'll put a bow on this one in just a minute.
You're watching The Penny Hardaway Show, presented by Cook's Pest Control.
Thanks for joining us on this late Sunday night. We'll see you again next Sunday.
The Penny Hardaway Show is presented by Cook's Pest Control. You don't have to live with pests. Call Cook's Pest Control and get a free quote today. Conway Services, the official HVAC partner of Tiger Athletics. Tennessee Lottery, turning dollars into dreams. Tiger Bookstore, the official merchandiser of Tiger Athletics. AutoZone, when you've got car trouble, you want help from #1. So if you've got a battery problem, head to AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination. Get in the zone, AutoZone, and is supported by your Memphis area Toyota dealers. This copyrighted telecast is an exclusive presentation of Learfield under the broadcasting rights granted by the University of Memphis. Reuse of this presentation is prohibited without the expressed written consent of the University of Memphis and Learfield.